All right, good evening. Welcome to the January 27th, 2025 meeting with Marshfield Planning Board. The time is now 7 p.m. Tonight's meeting is being recorded by MCTV, and we are holding a live remote meeting via Zoom. The members here tonight are Nick Papastratis, Fred Monaco, Kevin Cantwell, and I'm Mike Viviano, the chair. Missing currently Katie O'Donnell and Scott DeCastro that will probably be joining us. Also with us tonight is Greg Guimond, our town planner, and Karen Horn, our assistant town planner. At this time, I'll make a motion to open tonight's public meeting and waive the reading of the notice. Is there a second?
Second, Kevin Cantwell.
Thank you. Nick?
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, so first we'll start with the minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of 12/9/24. Is there a second?
Second, Fred Monaco.
Okay, Nick?
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. Greg, we want to go to the endorsement for the select board?
So because of the timing, with the late town meeting last December, we had two articles that needed correction in the BV Brant Rock Village Overlay District area for the solar and the best energy. We informed town meeting that it was an error, but since it was more restrictive, we didn't want to make a floor change and that we would bring it back to the April town meeting. So the article submitted by the planning board or the planning department to the select board was to correct those two table of use articles for the Brant Rock Village overlay to make it prohibited for BESS and large solar installations in that area. So we were looking for the planning board to vote to okay that submittal for April town meeting.
Okay, any discussion from the board members?
No.
Anyone from the public here to weigh in on this? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion that we endorse the submittal to the selectmen for the annual 2025 warrant. Is there a second?
Second, Kevin Cantwell. Kevin Cantwell, aye.
Thank you. Nick?
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye.
And one of the reasons is the warrant closed at 7 o'clock, which is why we filed it. The public hearing for this article and for the submittal from the Venus regarding parking in the Brant Rock Village overlay, March 10th is the date we expect that public hearing to be. And I see that Katie has joined us.
Oh, okay, yep, second page there. Hi, Katie. Oh, she's connecting.
She's there, that's all that's important.
Hi, Katie, can you hear us? Oh, we lost her. Oh, here she comes.
She comes. She's
You're very
blurry.
blurry. There you go.
Hi, Katie.
So you have all 5 board members now.
Okay, sounds good. Katie, we just did the minutes and we just did the vote for the selectmen to send that to the warrant. So those things are all set.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Apologies.
Yeah, not a problem. Just a couple of small things before you got here. So we're going to move on. I'm going to continue the public hearing for the modification. Is this a continuation of a public hearing or a new one?
A new one for Adelaide.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we open up the new public hearing for the modification to Adelaide WRPD special permit and waive the reading of the notice. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell. Aye.
Thank you, Nick.
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. Who's presenting this? It's not to the public. If you
Greg
are
here.
Yeah, hang on one
Yes.
second. To anyone here from the public, can you please put your speakers on mute? Looks like Paula Burke keeps chiming in. Thank you. All right, Greg, your turn. Greg Gibbs, you here for this?
Yes, sorry, Mike. I wasn't
Okay,
sure if you
thank
meant me or Mr. Guimont.
Yeah. Also,
Yes, so basically the request was to try to get the project moving along again. And we needed credit land in order to meet the WRPD restrictions. So we were hoping to donate Lot 1 in exchange for the release of Lot 5. And then Mr. Guimond had prepared the rest of the notes, I guess, as far as what that approval would consist of. Obviously contributing the remaining bond money and to cover the road construction completion.
okay, you want to let Greg Guimond go after that?
Sure.
Great. Okay, Greg.
So for background, we've had a nitrogen loading issue for the special permit for Adelaide for a while, and that had to be resolved before we could wrap up the subdivision. There are 2 lots that the planning board was still holding. Lot 1, which was a requirement from day one, and Lot 5, because we didn't have the monitoring wells or testing. So for about 1.5 years, we've tried various scenarios. All right, what if he got 4 acres of credit land? Then we could move forward. Then we tried a different scenario where if he used a enhanced denitrifying system for Lot 5 and Lot 1, and he found 1 acre, would that work for credit land? He was unable to find a 1 acre credit land. So the third scenario down was donation of Lot 1. And the reason that Lot 1 was the one that the town restricted from the beginning and the one that the planning staff was recommending be the lot that turned over to the care and custody of the Conservation Commission is it's because it's immediately adjacent to the land that was turned over to the town when this subdivision was first created, and it has wetlands in the back. Whereas Lot 5 has residential on 2 sides and has no wetland issue. So for the reason, and we checked with Conservation Commission and they agreed Lot 1 was the more critical lot. So we've drafted a special permit modification, which is what this public hearing's for. We made findings about the scenarios and the conditions. And the conditions for this project, and this would get the special permit wrapped up. He then has some work to do on the road. He's got to put a top coat on. He's got to put some street trees in. He's got to finish some sidewalk work. There are a number of things that he still needs to do and that we have to make sure we have enough surety. But with Lot 1 turned over to the town of Marshfield in the care and custody of Conservation Commission, which means it cannot be developed in the future. It's permanently restricted and protected. And Lot 5 being limited to 3 bedrooms and having a enhanced denitrifying system that they would be able to, and the other thing we did change was change the lot restrictions from 7,500 to 10,000 square feet. And that addresses all the nitrogen issues, and we are below the 5.0 nitrogen parts per million requirement. And then I'll just go through the conditions quickly. Condition 1, the special permit is recorded in the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds by the applicant. Proof of recording is provided or submitted to the planning board. Condition number 2, Lot 1 shall be conveyed to the town of Marshfield under the care and custody of the Marshfield Conservation Commission. Lot 1 must be conveyed prior to the release of Lot 5. Lot 5 is no longer required to have a dry sewer line installed to the house. That was one of the older conditions. Condition number 4, lots within the WRPD, which is 2 through 7, shall have a limited maximum lawn area of 10,000 versus 7,500. Lot 5 shall be deed restricted to limit the house to 3 bedrooms. Lot 6, the applicant no longer needs to enter in that a water resource protection agreement with the planning board, which was a previous condition number 7 from the 2014 decision, which had a lot of requirements on it, including the monitoring wells, the testing, blah, blah, blah. Condition number 7, lot 5 shall enhance an enhanced denitrifying septic system that meets the concentrate limits of the total nitrogen TN of less than 11 milligrams per liter. Now, those are the new type of septic systems that were approved for the 40B up on Ferry Street. They are expensive, but unfortunately, to get the nitrogen loading below 5 parts per million, we needed to have that done. Number 8, applicant must submit a surety for the planning board to cover the remaining work on the subdivision prior to the release of lot 5. And that's to ensure that we get the top coat, the sidewalks taken care of, and all the other work that needs to be done. And number 9, all other conditions of the original special permit shall be remain valid. So that was the draft that we submitted both to Greg and to the planning board members for their review prior to the public hearing.
Okay, thanks, Greg. So what we're looking to do here is we're looking to allow Greg Gibbs to give us lot 1, or give the conservation lot 1 in release of lot 5, correct?
Yes,
Okay, what's your recommendation? You're happy with all this?
yes. And I believe Mr. Greg Gibbs is as well. We've been working on this for a while.
Yes.
All right, we'll go to the board members for questions.
I don't have any.
Okay, I don't see any hands. Is anyone here from the public for this? If you are, please raise your hand. I have 3 pages open right now. So
Oh, no.
if you could raise your hand on the screen and then say your name and address when I call on you. Looks like the name of Judy Griffin. Sorry, I know that's probably not Judy, but you can go ahead.
Oh, Judy Griffin, our address, it's 32 Sawmill Lane in Rockland.
Okay,
We were interested in the neighborhood. That's why we attending that's why we came to the meeting.
okay. Do you guys have any questions about this meeting?
I guess I was curious, the lot 5 is the one on the corner of Adelaide. As you enter Adelaide Street, that's the corner lot on the right side. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, the other question I had was there's no town sewage on that street, so it would be a septic system.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
And it has to be a enhanced denitrifying septic system.
I don't know what that is, but
It's a little more expensive than your standard septic system. So
yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions for anybody in the audience?
I don't know how to raise my hand, but this is Sean Amond. I live on Adelaide Way.
Okay,
And I
thank
just
you.
wanted to understand, so I can convey to everybody on the street, what the schedule of finishing the development would be once lot 5 is released.
Greg Gibbs, do you have a schedule right now?
Don't have a schedule right now, but come springtime would be the best time to start planting trees and such. Most of the sidewalks have actually been completed and the driveway aprons, except for the small portion in front of lot 1. And then the top coat of the road, obviously, would kind of want all the construction, large construction vehicles and equipment out of there, so that it wouldn't get damaged. So that would probably be last on the list, but
Or are you thinking a schedule of before the fall or before the winter next year? Is that what we're looking at?
that would be the goal. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to know if it was contingent upon a certain level of completion of whatever is developed on lot 5. So that's helpful. Thanks, Greg. And Greg, thanks for getting the stuff off, the excess machinery out of the lots as well. It's been
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Okay, anyone else here from the public for this?
I don't,
I don't see anyone. Oh, maybe someone down the bottom.
can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep, just name and address, please.
Sorry, it's Mike Egan, 8 Adelaide Way.
Okay.
I think I speak for everybody in the neighborhood that, we're all behind Greg to get the project done. But we were just concerned that if the town if the land is donated, would that land just be unbuildable, like the town could put low-income housing in that lot, say 2 years from now, could they?
No, that's why it's specifically in the care and custody of the Conservation Commission.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. So, yeah, well, I think we're all behind it then.
Okay, anyone else from the public? All right, seeing none. If there's nothing else from the board members, I'll go to a motion. All right, I'll make a motion that we approve that lot 5 will be released upon the conveyance of lot 1 to the Conservation Commission, with any of the other things that you brought up, Greg. Anything else in that motion needs to get put in?
So you have actually the draft decision that you can just reference to the draft decision, and that covers everything.
Okay, I'll make a motion, well, continued motion to say referencing the draft decision that we already have in place.
January
Is it-
27th.
January 27th, 2025. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell, Katie O'Donnell.
Thank you, Nick.
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Fred.
Fred Monaco, aye.
Thank you, Nick. Kevin.
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, thank you, Greg and Greg.
Thank you, everyone.
Mike, you need to close the public hearing.
Okay, thanks, Karen. I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell, Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Fred,
Fred Monaco, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
and Mike Viviano, aye. All right, next we're moving on to John Sherman Estates. We still moving forward with that, Greg?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we open the continued public hearing and waive the reading of any notice for John Sherman Estates. Is there a second?
Kevin Cantwell, seconds.
Thank you, Kevin. Katie, vote? I see. it just
Yeah,
kinda stood up.
Sorry, I'm having, I have my phone and my computer going because my computer won't let me click on anything.
Yeah, not a problem.
Sorry. Aye.
Okay. You were in and out, so just do it so it's official.
Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Thank you. Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Fred,
Fred Monaco, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, who's here for John Sherman Estates?
Paul Driscoll is here. I can give an intro to start with, and then we'll let Paul jump in if he'd like.
Okay,
So this is another older subdivision that we've been working on for quite a while. Its main issue on the special permit side is that there had been some encroachment on open space in the open space area B. I'll just quickly show you. You guys see the screen now?
Yes.
Open space B is the lower right-hand side of the screen. And the encroachment was in the area of lots 7, 8, 9. We've worked up a scenario where we could possibly resolve the open space encroachment. And the Larkins on lot 9 have been working with the neighbors for that. And let's see if I can pull that up. Hold on one second. And share screen. Share. So on this one, you can see the area in yellow is where the encroachment is, and the area in green is an adjacent property. And there's been some discussion between property owners about perhaps purchasing the green area and swapping that for permanently protected open space with the area that was in yellow. That has a fence and shed and a number of things on it. A more detailed. Okay, can you see the second slide now with the various colors?
Yes.
Okay, so the yellow area is the encroachment area within the fence and stuff. The green area is the area where there had been some trees cut down and stuff, and some stuff had been on it. I believe all that stuff has been moved off. And then the area 21 feet wide by 173 feet long rectangle is an adjacent property owner. This was the area that, after trying several different ways of figuring out, how much land that we needed and how we could best do it without impacting the abutters' property, meaning their setbacks, their lot width, their frontage and stuff. This was the solution that we felt was best and that we had put forth to the Larkins and the other residents to resolve this issue. Paul, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure. Paul Driscoll, trustee of Paris Realty Trust, 1000 Plain Street, Marshfield. As you know, I own the subdivision. I was not aware of the encroachments when they occurred. It came as a great surprise to me, as to everybody else. The first thing I like to do is really praise Greg, because I think he spent an awful lot of time, probably on his own, with different degrees of cooperation from those whose individual lots are impacted here, to try to come up with a solution. And he has shared that with me, and I've been in touch with him. And the problem that I see before the board right now is that the proposed solution involves the creation of certain deeds, conveyances of certain parcels, and the creation and recording of certain plans. This, as I understand it, has already been in the works, so to speak, for several months. And I'm not aware of, and maybe Greg can tell us, whether the three parties involved in the fourth one outside the subdivision who owns 26 Proctor Street have all yet come to an agreement that Greg's proposed solution is in fact something A, they would like to do, and something they B, will do. So although this is progress, if in fact this solution is communicated and adopted, my concern is A, will it ever happen? And B, secondly, if so, when? I'm an observer to this. I'm impacted by it because it's my obligation to convey the open space as it is now to the town, subject to the care and custody of the Conservation Commission. But obviously, these things have to be resolved according to the edict of the Conservation Commission before any further final steps can take. So my questions are, and my concerns are the obvious one. Has anybody, have the necessary parties agreed to this? If so, is there a deadline imposed, or that we could impose tonight to get it done by a certain date, or decide that, or realize that it's not going to be done?
Greg, I guess you might be able to answer that if you have heard from anyone.
I have not heard back from the Larkins, and I have had no discussion with the abutter neighboring property. But I've emailed them several times and gave them the information. I know the Larkins were going away on vacation, but I thought they were back this week.
Okay, so
If I might, if I might, I'm afraid that's the history of it, and it's not Greg's fault. He and I have had several conversations about this. He's the one that came up with this plan that looks to me like, it looks to me like a plan that's quite generous to the people that encroach, but nevertheless, it would solve the problem. But I haven't been witness to or advised of any great urgency on their part or communication on their part. So I'm fearful that if this matter goes over for another month or even longer, that if we don't impose some kind of a deadline to them and communicate it to them by email or something, that we all may be playing the same record at the next meeting.
Paul, have you reached out to the Larkins?
Have I?
Yep.
No.
Seems like he's done a lot, and you might be able to reach out to them.
Well, you probably don't know, but it's got to be 3 or 4 months ago when the encroachment was discovered and determined, and Greg Morse put bounds out there that showed exactly where it was. Greg made contact with the Larkins, and Mrs. Larkin wrote a very unkind, and I might even say slanderous letter about me and blamed the encroachments on me, somehow alleging that I hadn't advised her where her back line was. So I went to Greg Morse at Greg Gimon's request, and I had Greg Morse go out and create a plan that showed exactly by meets and bounds where the encroachment was. And he also took out of his file a bill that he had submitted years ago to the Larkins at the time that they were clearing their lot and doing site preparation, which was drawn by him to show them exactly where their lot was. So what they were blaming on me 3 years later was something that they engaged him to do. He had done, he had billed it, and they had paid it. And so,
yeah.
but
What I
it's,
think's happening, Paul, wait a minute. I think what's happening now, though, is Greg has come up with a plan, tried to help, tried to facilitate. It's dragging on. Someone besides Greg in his time needs to try to pursue the Larkins to ask them if they're going to do it or not, because I believe Greg Gimon has done everything he could within emails and whatnot besides knocking on the front door, which we don't plan on doing.
well, the building inspector gave him a cease and desist and a threat of a fine if they didn't resolve it by a certain time, and they ignored him. So I mean, the town has sought to enforce its rights to have them comply with things and not encroach, and the Larkins just ignored them. And when they were pushed as to why they were ignoring them, they turned around and blamed it on me, even though they had full knowledge. Now, one thing that Greg Morse had explained to me is that when they do the initial plot plan and before the lot is cleared, that as a matter of course, they put wooden stakes out there on the ground. And they do that because in the course of construction, sometimes the grading changes. So whether it was Larkin that just intentionally ignored the boundary line or whether his site guy moved the wooden stakes, we don't know, but we do know that they were told exactly where it was. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
I understand that. Greg Gimond, have we exhausted all possibilities on our end with reaching out to them and coming up with a plan with the Larkins? Because I think you've gone above and beyond. And do we truly, as Paul Driscoll says, have an enforcement order with Andrew against them right now?
No, the enforcement order did go out a second time, but it was decided that we wanted to see if we could get a land swap solution out there. We do have a possible solution out there. I think it's up to the board to decide, do they want to give the abutters additional time to try to resolve their differences? Do you want to set a time limit? How do you want to have me proceed?
So you have been in contact with the Larkins?
Not in the past couple of weeks because they were on vacation.
But before that, they were trying to work toward a solution?
Yes.
So why don't we set the timeline for the next meeting? And in the meanwhile, you can either by email or, call the Larkins, let them know that we're coming up with this timeline that they need to let us know if it's moving forward with the neighbor or not by that point. And if it's not, we may possibly instruct Andrew to move forward.
Okay.
How's the board feel about that? Thinks it gives plenty of time. It's been going on too long.
I agree with you, Mike.
Okay.
Agreed.
Good idea.
All right. So do we need any vote on this tonight, Greg, or is it just another continued hearing to another date?
Continue public hearing to March 10th. And I will also let the building inspector and the town administrator know.
Okay. Seems like plenty of time. Anything else on the board before I make the motion to continue? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to make a motion to continue the hearing until March 10th, 2025 at 7:05. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Hang on, Paul. I'm in the middle of
yeah,
a
okay,
motion.
sorry.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. One more comment, Paul?
Yeah, Mike, I just assume that you want Greg to notify not only the Larkins, but the other two lots that are impacted by this.
Oh, yeah, I think he's reaching out to.
All
He's reaching
All
out to
three,
everyone.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, let's see. Last one here looks like I'll make a motion to open the continued public hearing and waive the reading of the notice for the Marshfield Hills Estates. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Nick,
Papastratus, aye.
Fred,
Fred Monaco, I.
Kevin,
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
and Mike Viviano, aye.
Greg Morris, I've made you a co-host so you can share your screen to show the plans and stuff.
Great, thank you very much. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering. I'm gonna put a copy of the plan up here. Okay, you should be able to see the subdivision on the screen. Can you see that?
We can. Yep.
Great, thank you. So as you're aware, this is a continued public hearing for a definitive subdivision at 0 Main Street. The proposal was to construct a 10-lot, single-family home subdivision project. Since the last meeting, we submitted revised plans in November, and then 2 revised sheets in December to your peer review engineer, Pat Brennan. Pat Brennan, PGB Engineering LLC, issued a letter at the end of December, December 26th, stating that he believes that all of his comments have been satisfactorily addressed. The revisions that we had made as a result of the last meeting, as a result of his peer reviews, predominantly had to do with the layout of the roadway in this location here. As you probably recall, Main Street is at the right-hand side of the page. There's a wetland that crosses the site here. And so at this location, we changed how we were crossing the wetland. We proposed a 20-foot wide open bottom box culvert system. We also brought the limits of the right-of-way out to accommodate that box culvert and the associated wing walls and retaining walls of that culvert. We updated on all of the lots, the septic system locations. We performed percolation tests with the Board of Health on all lots and had favorable results on all lots. We revised the water system. We had originally proposed a connection to the town water supply with a water main on this project. Unfortunately, the water main on Main Street is not acceptable to tie into with the subdivision. So we've changed it out to private potable wells. Each site would have its own potable well, and each home would be serviced by its own fire suppression system with a standpipe and tank. Lastly, we changed out some of the grading and aspects of the stormwater basin. Right here, we revised the drainage calculations per Mr. Brennan's input, so that we can show that we don't increase the rates or the volumes of runoff for the 2 through the 10 or in the 100-year storm events. We submitted a letter December 3rd, which outlines 8 waivers from the subdivision rules and regulations that we're seeking as part of this project. I can run through those waivers if you'd like. Also, since the last meeting, we've been to the Zoning Board of Appeals. A portion of this site is within the Inland Wetlands District. The Zoning Board hasn't ruled on the project, but I would say it was favorably received with them. I'm going to turn it over to you for questions or how you want me to proceed at this point.
Greg, you have any, is Pat Brennan here just to, or Greg, did you see that letter?
No, Pat is not here.
Okay.
Yes, I have seen Pat's, actually, we have like 3 correspondents from Pat, including on the sidewalks, what it would cost for the waiver on that. I would
Okay, just
first say for Greg Morris, could you just confirm that this subdivision is roughly 4.2 miles from Veterans Park? Because there seems to be some confusion in town about where this subdivision is located.
Sure. This project is significantly a significant distance from Veterans Park. I did see a posting on the Marshfield forum that indicated there might be some sort of association between this project and the Veterans Park. There is no association between this property and Veterans Park. The client or the applicant here is not associated with Veterans Park whatsoever. And the distance from this project, I'm calculating it right now in the Mass GIS viewer. This project is, let's see. It's over 5 miles from the Veterans Park site. This is on the north side of Highland Street, between Highland Street and Spring Street in the Marshfield Hills portion of town.
So over by the garage, it's on 3A.
Correct, diagonally across the street.
Okay. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
So on the planning board side, this is the first real discussion we've gotten into with this project because it's still before Conservation Commission and it is still before the Zoning Board of Appeals for the filling of land and for inland wetland reasons. One other thing, Greg Morris, could you confirm, because there's also been some talk that this was something where affordable housing units, 2 affordable housing units would be supplied. This is a standard subdivision as far as I know, and if you could confirm this has no affordable units in it.
That is correct. No affordable units proposed as part of this project. This is a straight definitive subdivision. It does not require a special permit. It's 10 residential lots, all complying with Marshfield zoning, a minimum of 1 acre in size.
And the other point is on Pat's stuff, basically, there's been changes to the plans to address a lot of things. There are waivers required in order for this project to go along. A question for Greg Morris: if the road was made steeper and a bridge versus the 20-foot wide box culvert was installed, the reason we're asking that is for wildlife corridor and for less fill, because that area is one of the deepest fill areas on the property. You did give us a cut and fill or grading sheet. Cut and fill.
Greg, are you saying that the way they have it proposed is better than a bridge?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you saying the way they have it proposed is better than a bridge?
The way they have it proposed it requires in that area, right as you, after you enter past lot 1, yeah, where the arrow is.
Yeah.
Or the hand, I should say. That area requires a lot of fill, and it kind of forces everything into a bottleneck. When you look at a couple of the grading plans, there is a lot of fill going on this. The town is in a butter in 2 sides, but particularly the town land to the north is impacted by all this grading. So we were wondering if there was a way to lessen the amount of fill bringing in there. It may make the road a little steeper pitched going in and out, but that would save a lot of fill. So Greg Morris, would you consider looking at that?
Sure, I'd be glad to look at it again. We did look at it rather significantly in coming up with the design. What really drives the design on any of these roads is what to do with the drainage. And naturally, as you see the wetland here, you would expect that this land drains toward the wetland. From Route 3A down to the wetland, and from the back of the site, it drains toward the wetland. We can't make this a low area because we wouldn't have any place on top of the wetlands to treat the stormwater. And so what we did is we made where the cursor is right now essentially a a high point, if you will, so that the stormwater here would run back to our detention basin. And we sited the detention basin as close as we could to the wetlands, specifically so that that high point wouldn't have to push the water even further away and that high point become higher. If you look at the roadway profile sheets, bear with me one sec. This right here is the crossing, and this represents the 20-foot open box culvert. It's open on the bottom specifically to allow wildlife passage and to maintain the natural ground surface. It's not a concrete ground surface, it's the existing soil, it's the existing wetland that stay in place. It's essentially the same thing as a dropped in place bridge. It has a clearing of 5 feet vertically, so wildlife can pass under the road as opposed to over the road. Looking at it in plan view here, here's a picture of where the existing grade is. You can see the existing grade where my cursor is. This is the culvert, and so you'll see from the top of the culvert down to that existing grade, that's that 5 feet of vertical separation, which would allow wildlife to pass under the roadway through this culvert. You'll also notice on this profile right here, this is the high point that we're creating above the culvert, where stormwater is going to flow back toward Main Street at a minimum of a 0.80 slope to get it to the stormwater system, or back toward our detention basin at a 2.5% slope. That's you don't want to go any less than typically 1% for a grade. Marshfield's regulations allow you to go to 0.5%. So I'm between that 0.5% and 1% grading already. I can't make this any shallower of a high point in that direction. I'm glad to look at it further, but it was given a lot of consideration. Bridges and culverts don't come at a cheap cost, so we tried to minimize the cost of it by keeping the amount of fill down in this location as much as we could. Off of the bridge, off of the culvert, we extended retaining walls on either side of it to minimize impacts into the wetland resource area and to minimize the amount of fill coming out off of the road and impacts to the buffer zone. Because of how this was aligned, this project with respect to the wetlands is what's referred to as a limited access project. This is the only way into this site. The applicant doesn't have any upland access from any abutting properties onto the site. So how we've identified this crossing is minimal impact to the wetlands. We've provided a minimum of a 2-to-1 replication area immediately adjacent to it for the wetlands. The Conservation Commission is reviewing that, but that does meet their guidelines as well as state guidelines for the crossing.
Thank you, Greg. And could you show them the cut and fill plan? And is there a way that you guys could update this so it gives us the how blue it is how deep it is type of thing? We have no way, like it shows us the depth that it's really deep at the where you're putting in the culvert.
Sure.
But it doesn't explain how much grading is going on underneath each house as well.
Sure. So you should see the cut and fill plan on the screen now. Do you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So how these plans are developed, we do an analysis of the existing conditions contours and then an analysis of the proposed contours. The amount of fill that's required for this project in its entirety is approximately 48,000 cubic yards of material. That assumes full build out of all the lots. Of that 48,000 cubic yards, approximately half of that is associated with construction of the roadway, while the other half is the construction of the individual house lots. The different colors on this plan represent the areas of cut and fill. There's a legend at the top corner here.
Okay.
Yeah. So anything in red would represent an excavation or a cut. And obviously, you'll see that most of the foundations here are an excavation. They're a cut. We're digging into the ground. Anything that's white is either area that has no work proposed or matches existing grade. And then anything that's in blue is an area of fill. And the darker the blue, the more fill is required. This area here, where the wetland crossing is, it's approximately 10 feet of fill that's proposed at that location. And that's largely due to because we need 5 feet of vertical separation under that culvert, and then we need soil on top of that culvert to construct the road. So we need that 10-foot fill at that location, regardless of whether that wetland crossing is here or whether you did it over here. You'd be looking at an almost 10-foot cut because of the topography of the land. Sorry, a 10-foot fill because of the topography of the land. So what dictates all these grades really are two things. When we do the soil testing for these houses, these are serviced by on-site septic systems. Septic systems have to have a minimum of 4 feet of groundwater separation from the bottom of the septic system to the groundwater table. At this site, groundwater is on average 3 feet below the ground surface. And so that means we're bringing in fill on every site here. Secondarily to the septic systems are the drainage systems. The bottom of the drainage systems need to be a minimum of 2 feet above the groundwater table. And then you have to have adequate slope on the piping and conveyance systems to get the drainage there. So the drainage and the septic are really what drive the quantity of fill at the site. You know, we've proofed it out by doing at least 4 test holes on every lot here and at least 2 test holes in every drainage location to try to get the volumes down as much as we can. Believe me, the applicant does not want to bring in excess fill if he doesn't have to. But that's where the regulations put us.
Mike, so on the planning board side, you have a number of waivers.
Yeah, we can probably go over those next. Do you want to go over them, Greg, or Greg Morris, or Greg Emon? Do you want to talk about them?
Go ahead, Greg Morris.
Good idea.
Okay. Great. So I submitted a letter on December 3rd, which outlines the 8 waiver requests that we had for the subdivision. I also identified those on the cover page in a list of waivers as well. The first waiver request is from section 405-4, which is that requirement for 2 sidewalks on a type C street or type C roadway. At this location, we had proposed a single sidewalk starting at Main Street and coming down and wrapping the cul-de-sac, but not a double sidewalk. We don't connect to any sidewalk systems out on Main Street as it is. This is going to be a relatively low traffic, small subdivision. And by having 1 sidewalk, it reduces drainage, it reduces impervious land surface, and it thought like a waiver we could request.
Greg, 2 points on that one. The post office is going to want to have the post office boxes at the beginning of the subdivision. And it's typically on the, I would suspect they want it on the north side, right where your hand is showing. Yes.
Yeah.
And then your sidewalk ends before it gets to Main Street. And the kids will have to wait for the school buses down there. So you can see where that ends. So
Yeah.
those are two things to think about at your entrance
Okay.
in relation to your sidewalk.
Okay. Yeah, so the post office, if they require that mailbox system here, we would add it on the other side of the street, certainly. Not knowing what future sidewalks may or may not be coming down Main Street, we certainly could extend it out further to the state highway layout, which is this line here. The reason I stopped it there is that's the limit of the curve for the radius coming in and out of the subdivision. So this will require a Mass DOT curb cut permit. Mass DOT won't review the plans and issue curb cut permits until you have subdivision approval through the town. So if they wanted a modification of that, I would have to come back to you. But I could extend that at least to the highway layout if you so desired.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Do you want me to move on to waiver request 2, or are you taking
Yep.
action on these?
No,
Or
go
what are we
ahead.
doing? Okay.
No, I think we'll need to discuss, so why don't you just go through them all so we can have them.
Great. Okay, so waiver request number 2 is in regards to section 405(9)(d)(1), which states that no area of single access may provide access to more than 8 dwellings in total. This is a single access subdivision road. We're proposing access to 10 single-family homes.
Okay.
Waiver request number 3 is in regards to section 405(9)(d)(1), which requires a cross-sectional width right-of-way to be 46 feet wide for a type C roadway. Our typical roadway does comply with your regulations in the right-of-way, in large part is 46 feet wide, with the exception of this area here where we're proposing the culvert and the wetland crossing. We have the retaining wall in the culvert, and what we've done is we've taken the right-of-way and we've flared it out, as you can see here, to go around those portions of the culvert and the retaining walls. At this location, the right-of-way is 71 feet wide. So it keeps all of the roadway and structure inside of the right-of-way.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Waiver request number 4 is in regards to section 405(9)(e)(1), which states that there's a maximum dead-end roadway length of 800 linear feet. Our proposal is a dead-end roadway length of 1,439 linear feet from Main Street to the end of the cul-de-sac. As you can see, this property is infringed upon by this wetland, and the majority of the upland area is at the back of the site. To cross the wetland, in the front here, you're constructing several hundred feet of road before you get to the real usable and buildable portion of the site. There are several other subdivisions in the town of Marshfield that greatly exceed 800 feet and greatly exceed 1,439 linear feet. All of these homes are individually sprinklered for fire suppression as well.
Each single family home for fire suppression?
Correct.
Because there's no public water, Mike.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Public water would only be for lot 1, right, Greg?
Correct. Lot 1 will tie into public water, but the remainder of the lots are individual wells with storage tanks and fire suppression systems.
Oh, okay.
Waiver request number 5 is in regards to section 405(10)(b)(4). The requirement is that there be a 50-foot buffer retained between all detention structures and adjacent land uses. Specifically, we're asking for that waiver where our detention basin is located, right here. If you look at the grading sheet, We're starting our grading essentially at the property line, which is a stone wall. The stone wall would remain intact. We're grading up with our berm, and then we're constructing the basin inside of it. The adjacent land use is undeveloped conservation land. There are no walking paths currently on it. There's no historic or views from the property. There's no access to this portion of the property. This basin would not be seen from anyone on this piece of property. The next waiver is waiver request number 6. It's from section 405-12H3, which is the requirement that retaining walls be limited to a maximum height of 4 feet. In this case here, where we have the bridge, the maximum height is 10 feet for the retaining wall. The retaining wall is made out of concrete, and it has a guardrail specified on both sides of the retaining wall. Waiver request number 7 is
Sorry, Greg,
section.
Greg, is that the only section where it's above 4 foot?
It tapers off from 0 feet at the end of the wall to 10 feet at the max. And then it tapers off again to 0 at the start of the wall. So it's 0 to 10 feet.
All right.
Waiver request number 7 is section 405-12C1, which the requirement is to plant suitable shade trees spaced not less than 40 feet along the proposed roadway. We are proposing trees along the roadway. We're asking for an exception in this area where we have the retaining walls and the culvert. We don't want trees on top of the culvert or behind the retaining wall locations. It is natural vegetation immediately outside of the retaining walls, so you would have trees along the road. They just wouldn't be the street trees that are specified throughout the remainder of the subdivision. We have a landscape plan here. That shows street trees every 40 feet along the start of the project. They stop through that wetland crossing area, and then they pick up again and go down all the way around the cul-de-sac for the remainder of the street.
Okay.
Waiver request number 8 is section 405-14, which is the typical roadway detail requiring an 18-inch Cape Cod berm on either side of the pavement. What we've proposed is we've proposed a 12-inch Cape Cod berm on either side of the roadway, and we've taken that additional foot of pavement and added it to the traveled way in the middle. That seems consistent with what you've done on other projects in town. It maintains the overall width of the pavement. A lot of the contractors building roads don't have the ability to construct an 18-inch Cape Cod berm, which is why we're requesting the waiver. And those are the 8 waiver requests.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Anything else beyond that, Greg, to present right now?
The Board of Health has sent one email. I've talked to Gary. There are still some concerns with the septic systems in the wells. The head of the water department has not sent me an email, but saw me at a department head meeting, and he was concerned because he preferred to have the water line be extended from Highland Street down to provide water for the whole area, and would get the houses off of the sprinkler systems and septic system and wells. Well, sorry, not the septic systems and the wells. As far as the waiver requests, waiver requests 3, 7, and 8, staff doesn't have any issues with, but the other waivers requested in the past has typically we've seen in the other subdivisions some public benefit to go with that waiver request, and we have yet to see any public benefit identified for the project. And then that following note, while I agree there is no view that would be blocked or obstructed with the conservation land to the north, the grading in that area is very steep. It's right to the stone wall. It will have impact on the town, future use of the town land for open space purposes. It also, I feel there should be a setback between the stone wall and where the grading begins. And the stormwater basin design and lot 2 should be looked at for the board prior to closing the public hearing.
Greg, is this, Greg Guimont, is this subdivision near any of our wellheads?
No, it is not in the zone 2.
Okay. All right, open up to any board questions right now. Not that we're gonna get through all this tonight, but just so it can be on Greg Morris's mind of what we're thinking.
I would just, I agreed with everything that Greg just mentioned, and I also was looking to see more about like public benefit for those waivers. So I'll be interested to see what is identified there.
Okay, so Greg Morris, maybe next meeting, when we review the waivers again, we can have the public benefit submitted to us beforehand.
Yes.
Okay, a list of those, thank you. Anyone else from the board before I go to the public?
All set for now.
Greg Morris, if you could stop sharing so we could see the screen, and that
Yep.
will know if anybody has questions. Thank you.
All right, is anyone here from the public for this? All right, I don't see any. Greg, on the waivers, giving us the public benefit on that, we have often allowed more than the minimal amount of houses on the street. You're looking for 10. We have often allowed, more than 800 feet on the road length. So if we could get those, I know you get a unique subdivision here, many challenges through all the boards. So that's an interesting one. Again, like Greg said, I have no issue with 8, 7, 6. What was 1, Greg? What was waiver request 1?
One is the
One sidewalk.
Yeah, the
sidewalk
sidewalk.
on one side.
Yeah, so I'm okay with that as long as we continue it down, and we typically have you pay into the sidewalk fund, which I'm sure you're aware of, if we allow that.
And we do have a number on that, Mike, on number 1.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Number 3 I was okay with, and then I think 2, 2, 4, and 5 are going to be the big ones for the board to discuss in my mind, but they're all for discussion, obviously. Anything else from the board members? If not, Greg, you have anything? Greg Morris, Greg, on. Okay.
Nothing further.
All right.
Not at the moment. We're still waiting to see what goes on with the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
And the
What's
Board
the
of Health.
continued date to this? Is it the 10th again?
We could do that if you want. Greg, do you have any feeling on which do you expect Concom and CBA to be closing within the next week or so?
I go back to the Conservation Commission next week. I'd like to think they're gonna take favorable action on it at this point.
Is March 10th too soon, or should we push it out further?
I'd like to go February 10th if we can.
Oh, I thought our next meeting was March 10th.
Oh, March 10th. Gotcha.
Greg Morse, isn't CBA scheduling the site visit at their meeting tomorrow night?
They
So-
are. They're scheduling a site visit. They're also having Pat Brennan review it on behalf of their regulations. So that remains open.
Is anyone else interested in a site visit, possibly the same time? Not a meeting where we couldn't discuss it, but just to go see the land? Is it walkable land, Greg, or is it that wet getting through there?
It is walkable, but if you are going to go out there, I would highly recommend you let me know, and I would gladly accompany the board or anyone that wants to go visit it. It's very easily, you'll get lost out there. It is traversable though.
Okay, maybe you can tell Greg Guimont when the ZBA schedules to go out.
Sure.
and I'll let the board members know. I do know one of the select board members wanted me to walk them on the site, and I had recommended that that individual go when the ZBA goes.
Yeah, I think one big group one. Just remember, if any of us do attend, it's not an open public hearing, and we shouldn't be discussing it at all. So, Greg Guimond, 3:10 is the next meeting.
February 10th is the next meeting, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, February 10th. Did I make a wrong motion on the last meeting? 'Cause I have 3:10 written down.
Well, we gave them over a month to resolve their issues, so I think.
Oh, okay, that's fine. All right, seeing no other questions right now, we're going to have to continue this. So I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing until February 10th, 2025 at 7:05. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Thank you, Nick.
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Fred,
Fred Monaco, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Cantwell, I.
and Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, thanks, Greg Morris. We got, looks like a lot of work left on this one, but we'll see where it goes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I think I'll just leave us with staff report if you have anything, Greg.
Not tonight, I'm tired.
I'm sorry, it wasn't 4
Karen, are we
minutes long.
missing anything? I've been sick all weekend, so.
No, I don't think so. It's just you're been working away on your beach nourishment.
Oh, yeah, we have been working away on the beach nourishment.
All right. Okay, seeing nothing else, I'm gonna make a motion that we close tonight's public hearing. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Fred,
Fred Monaco, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Cantwell, I.
okay, and Mike Viviano, aye. All right, thanks for coming, Greg. I know you weren't feeling well, and thanks to everyone else. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.